Hello everybody, Adam Lusek here, and today we're going to be talking about language models using computers and other digital environments, similar to what's going on now, where we can see a language model start to greet us at the start of this video using a completely containerized desktop. Now, I've been thinking about this idea for a while, ever since Anthropic released their Developing a Computer Use Model blog and some subsequent fine-tunes of the Claude models back in October of 2024. But back then, there weren't a lot of environments or frameworks built around this concept yet. However, since then, we've seen a lot take shape. So I thought now seems like a better time to actually discuss, showcase, and explain why giving language models access to things like browsers, things like desktops, may be a better route forward for integrations of language models into digital environments. But to build up to the understanding of how this works and the different theory behind it, we need to think first about language models in a more theoretical way, and how they're able to process information and take different actions. Early releases of the language models that we've come to know and love didn't do anything except for generate text. And even then, they hadn't been fine-tuned yet for instruction following to make experiences with back and forth conversations like ChatGPT. They actually did more so completions. So you'd input some text and then it would start generating at the end of the sentence, like a completion. And it wasn't long before these models were fine-tuned with instruction tuning, which the biggest thing that came from instruction tuning is the standardization of the experience of having the user input some form of instructions and the language model generating text or taking some action to try and complete those instructions. Now again, in the earlier days, this action that was being taken was still text, usually things like translations or just answering a general question based on the intrinsic knowledge of the language model, but this then got improved with function calling. And function calling expanded the action space of the language model by exposing different APIs or tools to the language model, where you would pass in some sort of schema and possible action that the language model can take, and in its text generation or response to some text, it can reason through and use or call that tool, where it'll provide the keyword arguments towards that tool is then ran in a different environment, and its results are returned back for the language model to observe and have some follow-up with. Something to note here is that the introduction of tool calling is where we begin to see the expansion of the language model's possible actions reach outside just its intrinsic kind of world that it lives in, where it's just generating text or anything, but now it can affect different outside environments through these different tool calls. And these two functionalities, both text generation and tool calling, is what we see most language model-based environments being built around. So now language models tend to operate in an environment where it has some sort of back and forth text, as well as a suite of tools that allows it to gather some form of information or display some form of information. Notably, things like Claude or ChatGPT have web search, create a canvas, execute code, or execute some different specific workflows like deep research. And while these environments for language models do produce good results, and we see that they are quite popular, I would argue that it's still quite limiting if you consider how language models actually process and act. Early research identified that language models, through scaled pre-training, actually have what are called emerging abilities, which broadly means that when you are training language models and give them more data and more compute, they're able to actually do more things that they weren't necessarily trained on. Through just modeling language and looking at a lot of text, they were able to see with some of the early language models different reasoning capabilities, planning capabilities, and other different complex behaviors that weren't necessarily encouraged during the training. Now, this is quite remarkable because through just modeling language across a massive data set of text, we were able to create some form of a generative system that mimics human-like qualities, which led to applying more human-like frameworks towards language model-based applications and systems when developing them. One such notable framework that has persisted for a while is the React or Reasoning and Acting framework, where a language model is encouraged, when given an input, to reason through what it needs to do, as well as consider all of its available actions, take those actions, reflect on the actions and the observations of the outputs of the actions, and continue in a loop like that of reasoning, acting, and observing until it believes that it has completed the goal or responded accordingly. Additionally, it was found out that language models are considered few-shot learners, where given a task and multiple different examples, are able to learn on the fly how to complete that task without requiring any further fine-tuning or training or modifications of the actual underlying weights. But when broadly considering these different approaches, we can see the parallels between how applying different ways that we as humans actually approach problem solving has improved the performance of language models' ability to do the same problem solving. Which leaves us with this generally intelligent system that's able to mimic the style and approach of how people like you and I approach different problem solving tasks, and is able to get decent performance by mimicking the different frameworks and systems that we actually have in place to approach and solve those problems. Now, to tie it all back, when considering the actually environments and the worlds that language models live in, and by this we mean something like the application or integrated system that they are in, like Gemini within this chat-based interface, it seems more limiting than not. In other words, if language models do simulate the way that we act, why not give them the same tools that we use and the same capabilities that we use to do those actions? Which is one of the main concepts that actually drives the development of these different computer and browser use-based environments, allowing language models that act in human ways to use human tools. A similar argument is also being made in the field of robotics, where we see a lot of humanoid robots coming up. And the main one-liner behind this is that we already have entirely working systems that are built around the human form and human needs. So why not build and integrate systems in a human-like way? A humanoid robot can already fit into the world as it is designed, and we already have a whole lot of data and training material from just observing how people work every single day. Twisting the argument back towards language models, if we have this generally intelligent system that operates like a person in a digital environment, then why not give them the tools and the form to use the digital environment in the same way that a person does? Which brings us back towards the implementations of this form for language models. So let's take a look at a couple different approaches and how they actually do this. One of the big initial open source implementations of this is the browser use repo, where they identified that a lot of the work that we do as people is done in some form of browser. So when considering how someone actually does work on a browser, there's not a whole lot of complex actions that we need to solve for. Much of it is done visually just through identifying the structure of the page and how to navigate the page through things like scrolling, and then furthermore actions like button clicking and typing. But in considering this, the possibilities of what you actually can do when given something like a browser is exponential, especially when considering the limitations of something like a chat-based interface with limited amounts of tools. So let's take a real quick look at actually using the browser use repo and giving a browser to a language model to complete a task. For this, I have just a super simple script here that will define the agent with GPT 4.1 and take in an input. The back of the browser use repo will handle pretty much everything else. So I might give it a generally open-ended task to please summarize the contents of the latest blog post that Adam Lusick has published. And so when we run that, we will initialize, of course, the browser that the language model will be able to use, and then it's going to start taking some actions. So we can see that it has searched Google for Adam Lusick blog, and then this has all been parsed. It's then going to go to the lusick.ai website here, where all of the individual components of that are also going to be parsed. And then from that, we can see that it has given us a result here in the command line, which reads that Adam Lusick's latest blog post is titled AI in Digital Worlds Computer Use, and he discusses how language models as simulators of human behavior should be provided with the same tools humans use to interact with the digital world, which is correct. So as you can see, this language model has gone through and taken a bunch of actions to solve the task that I gave it using the browser. Looking into the logs here a little bit, you can see that to approach this task, it is actually going through step by step, and it's first going to evaluate the page, it's going to think about its next answer, and it is going to write some things down and propose a next goal. And through doing this, it decided to use the browser and search Adam Lusek blog in Google, where it then gets the web page, and then the web page components are actually extracted. Now, this extraction and understanding is actually very important because this is the kind of visual observation of what's going on the browser at the time for the language model to use. And this is pretty much parallels how we would kind of observe how the websites and the browser actually interact as we navigate and take actions there. The specific implementation here is that the HTML is actually being extracted and the data object model is being extracted and passed as context to the language model. So it knows what action it took, it knows what the prior data object models are and what the pages look like, and what the current one is. So it can see over time what its actions have done, and it can reflect on whether or not it's actually gotten closer towards completing that action. Which in our case, a simple Google wasn't enough, it needed to do some clicking around. So you can see that it did click, and it clicked on a couple buttons here within the website itself once it loaded. But overall, was able to successfully give me the result that I was hoping for. Now, while browsers are cool, we understand that they're not the only tools that we actually use within the digital environments that we operate in. Of course, there's plenty more that make up the entire operating system, and so the natural kind of progression from this is why not give access to a full operating system and full desktop environment, which was implemented very elegantly by some folks over here at Hugging Face with ScreenEnv, an open source full stack desktop agent here that creates an isolated Ubuntu desktop environment in a container for a language model to actually interact with and do stuff with. They expand the number of actions and tools greatly as well, giving the language model options to execute things like system operations, like shell commands, or getting file contents or downloading files, application management commands like waiting or launching or getting windows, graphical user interface automation like clicking in various ways like left, double, right, and middle click, and scrolling, even dragging around. So this encompasses kind of the entire way that you would interact with a desktop environment here. And also we will then provide the desktop environment to the language model and ask it to perform some sort of task. So for our showcase here, we'll be using one of their provided example scripts of the desktop agent, where what they've done is they've gone ahead and defined a little bit more of a complete desktop agent that has different tools like clicking, right-clicking, double-clicking, pressing, dragging, scrolling, and everything that you'd kind of expect when interacting with a full desktop environment. We can kick that off and use one of the examples that they have here of open LibreOffice and write a report of approximately 300 words on the topic of AI agent workflows in 2025. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to take off the save the document. So after kicking that off, what we'll see happen in the back is it's going to create the desktop. And it does this, of course, in a Docker container. And after a few seconds, we shall see then. Here we go. Our desktop here simulated nicely in Chrome. Now it's gone through and opened up LibreOffice. It sees this tip of the day. It's probably going to try and close it. It was able to successfully close it. And then we should start to see some writing happen. And there we go. It's going to go through and write this. Now, this is a little bit more different than the browser use that we just went over because it's actually using the full desktop and is able to use kind of any application on the desktop. And then over in the back, we can see what happened is essentially exactly what we would expect. It's writing some code that corresponds to the tools that take the actions in the environment. So launching LibreOffice, waiting for it to launch, it goes through and has a short-term goal of dismissing the tip of the day, so it presses enter, and then you can see it actually stream through the entire report here. Interestingly, one of the things here that you may have noticed is that we're not relying on any actual extraction of things like HTML or kind of a text-based interpretation of what's going on the screen. We're actually going to be using screenshots. So this brings us even closer to the way that we as people actually interact with desktops, because we're going to be relying on vision language models to do these different complex tasks. So after each kind of step that it takes, it's going to save a screenshot and then pass that along with all of the prior context to the language model for it to determine its next follow-up goals and actions to take, which all comes together to be able to have this autonomous system that can use our desktop to perform all sorts of different tasks. And as a final example, I want to highlight one of the more prominent closed source options that have popped up recently with ChatGPT's agent. The ChatGPT agent is OpenAI's way of actually implementing these various different application use or browser use capabilities directly into ChatGPT, where they've given ChatGPT a limited environment of different tools that it can use, and then strings them together with a containerized browser to take kind of long actions. So for the example, I've gone ahead and ran this and invoked it to create a strategic presentation outlining the role of emerging agtech solutions. And what it was able to do, and we can actually watch a replay here, is it'll go through and do a lot of these similar things that we saw with our prior frameworks, reasoning through the next steps that it needs to do and actually invoking some tools. So it knows that it needs to go out and look for some of this information here. So it then goes to the web browser and does some searches, and it will look through all of those. Later on down the line, it will do some problem solving, and as it collects this information, it'll eventually then move over towards making the PowerPoint. And they've implemented the PowerPoint, interestingly, as a kind of bash tool where it's going to go through here and invoke some different steps here to create an actual PowerPoint file. Within this, it's also done some things like generated images and placed them very differently into the presentation itself. And it's going to go through and perform all of these actions, reflect and observe on what happened, and then take the various actions until it actually creates the final project, which in this case actually took about 20 full minutes of operating to create. And in the end, it went through and created a PowerPoint presentation that actually looks pretty good and has backup sources for where it's getting the information from the web here. It's gone through and generated all of this text, placed all of the content, and refined it to my specific asks. So with some of those examples, we can start to see the power of actually integrating and implementing language models into digital systems, similar to how we as humans actually operate within them. With the argument that if language models kind of mimic human behavior in a digital environment and understand the world through the lens of a human understanding, it might be more beneficial to us to actually implement them in ways that mimic how humans do interact day to day with these digital systems. And it'll be interesting to see and monitor the progress as language models become better at operating in these environments and see whether or not they can truly become our digital co-pilots or even take over some of the more manual digital work that we have to do. So with that, I hope you found this thought-provoking and maybe learned something interesting today. I've written down a little bit more of my thoughts around this in this short blog post on my website here, and I'll have more information and links in the description below. So if you like the video, like the video. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the description below. And if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing. Thank you and have a great day.